What's up guys, Asian here with another PTS video, and today we're going to be discussing one of the mythic items that has been making the rounds on a lot of PvE discords. That is Thrassian Stranglers. So in Greymoor we got new mythic items. They are introducing 6, but I am sure Zasa will introduce more as we get more DLCs. But for right now we're only getting 6 mythic items, and they are as follows. So first let me find where the mythic item coffer is. So these are the first 5 that we have. So we have Ring of the Wild Hunt, which is basically very fast movement speed. Torque of Tonal Constancy, which gives you regen depending on which resource is below 50%. Snow Treaders, which gives you immunity to stage mobilizations, but you can't sprint while in combat. Malakat's Band, which increases damage done by 25%, but you can't crit anymore. And then Bloodlord's Embrace, which basically returns magicka back to you whenever you batch attack somebody and deal damage to them, or I should say block an attack from anybody that you've bashed. The 6th one is the one that we're going to be interested in talking about today, and that is going to be Thrassian Stranglers, which you guys can see here. So killing an enemy grants you a persistent stack of Sload's Call up to a maximum of 20 stacks. Each stack increases your spell damage by 150, but also increases your damage taken by 2%. By removing these, crouching, or going invisible, you remove all stacks of Sload's Call. So you guys might have seen a couple of parses going around Discords that looked something like this, over 100k DPS. This is on the Magicka Nightblade here. This is combining both, Simmering Frenzy with Thrassian Stranglers, and we get 115k, and you can probably imagine what people are saying. Oh, you guys should nerf vampires, you should nerf Magicka Nightblade, you should nerf Thrassian Stranglers, etc. But today I want to talk specifically about Thrassian Stranglers and why this build in particular might not be as viable as you might think in an actual raid environment. So first, let's just ignore everything else. So we've already talked about how Simmering Frenzy on a Magicka Nightblade or Magicka Templar might be a little bit overpowered. We're not going to be touching on that. We're going to be touching upon the viability of using Thrassian Stranglers in an actual raid environment. So the first thing that we're going to need to point out here with Thrassian Stranglers is you will not be able to wear a Monster Helm set while you're using Thrassian Stranglers. It is a light hand and it is a unique one-piece set here. So it means you need to break one of your 3 sets. So you either need to break one of your 2 5-piece sets, or you need to break up your Monster Helm set. So for this parse, I decided to break up a Monster Helm set, so I'm running 5 Mother Sorrow, 5 Storia, and 1-piece Zahn here for the additional spell crit, but I could have easily decided to keep the Zahn and use Thrassian Stranglers and just have 4-piece Mother Sorrow instead. But the most common scenario is going to be break up your Monster Helm set, just because Magic DPS in general, you guys will be able to break up your Monster Helm sets. Zahn is currently the strongest set, but it's not viable in all scenarios and all fights. So this is going to be the most likely scenario where you're going to be running Thrassian Stranglers. So that's the first thing you're going to need to keep in mind, that you will be limited in terms of your gear setup here. Now, with this setup, if we're not running something like New Moon Acolyte or Julianus, which can be crafted in medium and heavy, we are stuck with running 6-1. So we have 6 light armor pieces, and then we have 1 heavy piece here. So we're already going to be losing a little bit of resources, a little bit of health, a little bit of passive boosts by losing out on one of those armor bonuses. Not a big deal, and overall it's not going to be a huge DPS loss, but still something you want to take into consideration. The other thing with Thrassian Stranglers is the wording of killing an enemy. Now, there are other sets that already sort of have this wording in place here. So if we take a look at a good example of this would be False God's Devotion here, where you see when an enemy you recently damaged dies. So this implies you don't necessarily need to kill the enemy. We take a look at VO, which is another set that requires you to kill stuff. VO here, where is it? An enemy you have recently damaged dies, and so on. So the wording here is not the same as False God's Devotion or Vicious Ophidian, where if you're part of a group and you happen to damage an enemy and somebody else happens to kill the enemy, you still get the additional resources returned. Here it's saying you killing an enemy grants you persistent stacks. So more or less this says that you need to get the killing blow on an enemy. And we're going to turn to a separate clip now that I recorded a little bit earlier with a friend that basically demonstrates that. All Alright, so this is going to be test 2 of Thrassian Stranglers. This is just because some people pointed out possibly sources of inconsistency in the previous video, so I'm just going to retest this really quickly in a controlled environment. Somebody has graciously volunteered to help me test things out. So we're going to go ahead and get that started here. So just loading into my house where we're going to be doing things on the 300k dummy here just because it's going to be relatively easy to kill here. It should be fairly quick. I'm going to be grouping up with my friend. We will both be damaging the dummy, but I will allow the friend to obviously get the killing blow. So that is going to be the hit that actually kills the dummy. I'll make sure I'm still in combat with the dummy and so on. And we'll see whether or not you do need the killing blow or not. The previous test showed that we did need a killing blow, but again, people thought otherwise, so here we go again. Alright, I'm in, just gotta put on the Stranglers. Alright. So here's my friend. Don't want to invite the duel, invite the group. That's what I want to do. Okay. So really quickly right off the bat, we have a spell damage of, I'll be sticking to the back bar here, so 2502. I'm talking with him, we're in group chat. I'm at 2954 right now. And you can see here I did not end up getting any sort of boost right now. 2502 still. So you do need the killing blow. Because I was a controlled environment, I was still in combat. I did have the Berserker enchant up, but you saw that the value didn't go up once it died, and you saw it die in the background there. So, yeah, so you do need the killing blow there, but hopefully that'll help iron things out that might have been a little bit iffy on the previous video there. But yeah, back to the discussion about whether Thrassian Stranglers is actually going to be worth running or not. Okay, so hopefully that clip has convinced you guys that you do need the killing blow in order to get the stack of Sload's Call. There have been some conflicting reports. I have seen people say that you don't need to do the killing blow, you just need to damage end an enemy, but based on our tests, you do need to land the killing blow in order for that spell damage to actually count towards Sload's Call. That means you need to land 20 killing blows in order to get all 20 stacks of Sload's Call. Well, you might ask, well, Asian, why don't you just kill 20 overland enemies and then port into the trial? Clearly the stacks will carry over between instances. And to that, I will say, watch this. Right now, our spell damage is at 5244. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick a random person to port to, who is online here, preferably not in Western Skyrim, because that can crash. Let's go to this person here. So we are going to be moving out of this instance, and again, our spell damage is 5244. Now, if you sayers are saying that we should be able to keep our spell damage bonus when we kill 20 enemies and then port into the trial instance, we should maintain that 5244 additional spell damage. Let's go ahead and take a look at what our actual spell damage is once we get out of the loading screen. Spoiler alert, it is not going to be 5244. Kind of waiting, just waiting. Join the loading screen. Hopefully I don't get kicked. Come on. Come on. Purposely chose Somerset because there we go. You're at 2244 instead, so we did lose all of our stacks of Sload's Call just by re-instancing. So for those of you guys who are saying, well, you can just kill 20 overland enemies and then port into the trial, no, you won't be able to do that because you will lose all stacks of Sload's Call. Now, I did test this out by killing a critter, so these are these like 1 8 health mobs. Let me see if I can find one nearby. Nope, that's a gathering. I need like a rat or something. But if you do happen to kill a critter, you will actually be able to get a stack of Sload's Call. Actually, let's go to. I know where I can find a critter. Actually, go to Sunspire. So, if you're in a lobby and you do happen to have one of these critters lying around, you will actually be able to get started on your stacks of Sload's Call. So could potentially get a head start that way, but again, you do need to land a killing blow. So for trials with ads, it's going to be kind of challenging. Okay, so we're in the trial now. So if you guys go ahead and see, where's the rat? There's the rat. This is a rat that I can kill. Again, our spell damage right now is 2244. So if we go ahead and, oh no, I lost the rat. Where'd the rat go? If we murder the rat, let's get out of Sororia first. Do I have the Sororia? Do I have the Sororia buff? Let me get rid of the Sororia buff first. I don't know if I have the Sororia buff. Because here, 2394. So we got rid of the Sororia buff here. So we are getting the Sload's stack when we kill a critter. So you could do this. So for example, there's a rat there. I think there's a rat somewhere over here. Just spam light attack. Eventually you'll hit critters and things like that, as you would normally do in trial. Oh, there's one. So there we go. Another Sload's Call stack right there. So you start off with 2 out of 20. So we still need to kill 18 things and land the killing blow on those 18 things in order to get the full stack of Sload's Call. So going to be a little bit challenging to get those full stacks in a trial because, we're not going to be sitting around and saying, okay, Johnny, you get the killing blow on this trash pull and all these ads. Jane, you get the killing blow on these next trash pulls and so on. No, that's not going to be the case here. So in scenarios where everybody is wearing Thrassian Stranglers, this is less of a big deal because at the very least, those stacks are still most likely going to DPS, and so those deaths aren't necessarily going to waste, but let's say you're the only one with Thrassian Stranglers in your group. Anybody else's kills aren't going to be stacking your Sload stacks, so you're basically losing out that way. The other big thing is the negative side effect of wearing Sload's Call and getting all those stacks going. You get an additional 2% damage taken for each stack. So you get 20 stacks, that gives you a total of 40% additional damage taken. Now, the way that damage taken debuff and damage reduction buffs work is that it's basically additive up until you completely get rid of all of the damage taken debuffs. So we have 40% from the damage taken. So we need to make up another 40% damage mitigation in order to basically reduce that. So if we have things like minor protection, and let's take a look at our CP setup right now for red CP. So let's say I'm taking a direct damage hit here. We have 24 from Ironclad, we have 13 from Hardy, so that would combine be 37. So that leaves us with 3% initial damage taken. Remember, it is additive. If we have something like Minor Protection, let's say from something like Ringer Protection or something, that ends up with a net 5. So we only have 5% additional damage mitigation here. That is ignoring resistances. Resistances are separate from that additive sort of bonus here, so we're not including resistances at all. So in total, we're getting pretty much no benefit from our red CPs here, while we have a full stack of Sload's Call. This does mean, of course, you're going to be taking a lot more damage in trials. Now, for very high-end PvE players, this is probably not that big of a deal because you already know the mechanics of the fight, you know how to avoid fights, and you're probably playing with healers who are really on top of making sure your DPS are fully healed up. But of course, not all of us are playing in those types of groups. So in those types of groups, Thrassian Stranglers is going to be more of a detriment than an actual benefit, because once you die, you lose all stacks of Sload's Call. Now, there are a couple of places where Thrassian Stranglers might actually be beneficial, or potentially even useful, but it does require a lot of micromanagement. The one role I can think of where Thrassian Stranglers is going to be potentially useful is if you are the Orb Killer in Cloud Rest, because typically speaking, you are going to be the only one killing the orbs, so you're always going to get that killing blow, or I should say 95% of the time you get the killing blow. There's always a chance that the orb might drift into somebody's AoEs, for example, and die from the AoE damage rather than your damage, but for the most part you should be able to get the kills from the orbs. That does mean, of course, you're going to be able to get those stacks of Sload's Call. Now, the downside of running Cloud Rest is there's a lot of damage that is unavoidable. Hoarfrost, Roaring Flare, etc. So the good thing with Thrassian Stranglers is if you crouch, you remove all stacks of Sload's Call, which also removes the damage taken debuff. So if you happen to have 20 stacks of Sload's Call and you happen to get the Hoarfrost on you, you can just crouch, remove the stack of Sload's Calls, and therefore you will lose all the spell damage, obviously, but you won't be taking any sort of additional damage there while you're dealing with Hoarfrost or Roaring Flare or whatever it is that you happen to have. That, unfortunately, is a very, very high level of play, though, requires a lot of micromanagement, and just based on how often these mechanics come up in Cloud Rest, the final fight there, it's very unlikely you'll be able to build up to those 20 stacks of Sload's Call that you need to take full advantage of Thrassian Stranglers. Where does that leave this? Well, in my opinion, Thrassian Stranglers is going to be useful if you can convince all of your magical DPS to run Thrassian Stranglers. And I mentioned this earlier, that's because no matter who is killing the ads, somebody is getting an additional stack of Sload's Call, so that is still bringing up group DPS. And additionally, by spreading out all the stacks here, you're not guaranteeing that one person's going to be basically a glass cannon. Essentially, they're more likely to die. Basically, by spreading it out, yes, everybody's going to have 8, 10, 12% additional damage taken, but it's not going to be the whole 40% damage taken debuff that you have. So you're still going to be able to get some benefit out of your CPs that way, and you're basically sort of spreading out the DPS gain compared to having just 1 or 2 people with full stacks of Thrassian Stranglers. This does mean, though, that for split groups or groups with Magicka and Stamina, Thrassian Stranglers probably won't really make it on there because there's always the risk that your Stamina DPS will steal the kill, denying you that stack of Sload's Call. But for groups, high-level groups, I should say, very, very high-level groups, so for beginner groups or progression groups, probably not something I'd recommend. But for very high-level groups, Thrassian Stranglers, as they are right now, could potentially make its way onto all Magicka groups. I still would caution against running Thrassian Stranglers in that manner, just because it does require a very, very high level of play. We're talking about people who create the meta, people who do the speed runs, who do the training achievements, etc. Those would be the types of people who'd be able to make the most use as the Thrassian Stranglers. But for everybody else, I would caution against getting Thrassian Stranglers. And again, as a reminder, this is only the first week of the PTS, so it is subject to change. They might nerf Thrassian Stranglers to maybe half spell damage, so instead of 150, it's 75, and then 1% damage taken. They might change it so as long as you damage the enemy and it dies, you'll be able to get the stack. So there's a lot of things that are still in play here, but generally speaking, I would say Thrassian Stranglers is something that is going to be very, very situationally useful. And even then, it's going to be only used at the very, very high end level. Most players will not be able to use Thrassian Stranglers to the fullest of its potential. But that is it for this video. Let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think of Thrassian Stranglers, whether or not you think it needs to be changed at all, and whether or not you think you'll be using it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next dungeon.